A Madison alder wants to stop an East Side nightclub from selling alcohol after a shooting over the weekend.
And we'll tell you how Madison scientists are working to solve the case of a missing 13-year-old from more than 200 miles away.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 This Morning. It is Thursday, December 13th, and not only are our minds foggy, the sky's a little foggy this morning as well.
It is rough this morning. There is some fog developing across southern Wisconsin. Temperatures are below freezing, so that may be some freezing fog in some spots. Keep that in mind. The National Weather Service just about an hour ago expanded the dense fog advisories for southern Wisconsin. Here's the view from the Edgewater Skycam. You can see a little bit of fog around the Capitol Dome, but it's not terrible here in Madison. The dense fog advisory is in effect until 10 o'clock, though, for areas all around us this morning. Here's a look at current visibility. Mineral Point and the Dells have been at zero visibility for over an hour now. Quarter-mile visibility in Lone Rock and Viroqua, about 1.5 miles in Watertown. So keep in mind, though, as I mentioned, temperatures are well below the freezing point. There may be some slippery spots on roads and sidewalks this morning. Here's a look at our temperatures over the next 12 hours. Wind should stay pretty light today as well. With a little bit of clearing through the middle of the day, we should top in the upper 30s later on this afternoon. Here's a look at your first alert traffic this morning. Haven't seen any accidents showing up on the area roads. Here, travel in Madison is looking good still on the Beltline. Looks like you're traveling at posted speeds as well on those major routes into the city.
That is good news, especially all things considered with that fog.
Yeah, you might want to take it a little easy this morning.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
We are continuing to follow the city's response to a shooting at a nightclub on Madison's east side over the weekend. The State Journal reports the alder for that district is calling for the liquor license at Visions nightclub to be revoked. David Aarons told the paper the nightclub is a, quote, blight on the neighborhood and a hub of prostitution, drug selling, and violence. This comes as one man faces charges for a shooting that hurt 4 people over the weekend. Police records show more than 50 911 calls have been made to the Visions address so far this year for issues like battery, theft, property damage, and disturbances.
Later today, the State Crime Lab here in Madison will continue processing more than 100 pieces of evidence that could be connected to a missing 13-year-old from Barron. Now, it's been almost 2 months since Jamie Kloss disappeared. Authorities believe she was abducted from her home after her parents were murdered there back in October. The Barron County Sheriff says there's more than 100 pieces of potential evidence still being examined, but that the testing should be finished within the next few days. The State Crime Lab has handled most of the forensics for Jamie Kloss's case, but under state law, those scientists cannot share specifics.
The support's been overwhelming. Our families, like you, we just want Jamie home.
And now a tree is decorated for Jamie, and it's lit up in her honor. The Barron County community is calling it a tree of hope, and starting last night, it will continue being lit up outside her school, Riverview Middle. That's in support of her family and, of course, Jamie herself. That tree also features messages from her classmates.
Local and federal authorities are investigating an anti-Semitic video that appears to mock Baraboo's controversial prom photo. That video was removed from the internet yesterday morning, but it had already received 1,800 views. Around the same time, anti-Semitic flyers popped up outside Jack Young Middle School in that city. Now, both the video and the flyers warn people to stay home on December 18th. That's the day both the high school and the city had scheduled events to talk to students and community members about tolerance. The city is hoping this week's events won't harm the recovery process from that photo that surfaced last month.
If you have been around Monroe Street in Madison, you have probably seen all the yard signs that call for no new stadium. Now, this is all over a proposal to add lighting to Edgewood High School's football field, and the alder representing that area says he thinks he's found a possible solution here. The high school has an artificial turf field, but right now teams can't use it after dark because there are no lights. Now, people living close to the school say bright lights and a new sound system will affect their property values and be generally disruptive. Alder Alan Arnsten says he's received hundreds of emails from people on both sides of the argument. He's since come up with a compromise, giving the school permission to add those new features, but limiting the use of the lights and speakers to Edgewood's 5 home football games.
Sympathetic to what difference this will make with them. But it seemed to me that a fair balance is saying, okay, we'll recognize you're going to have this imposition, but it won't be much.
Alder Arntzen says both sides are equally unhappy with his plan, which might be the best case scenario for everyone. Now, neighbors we spoke to aren't confident the school will stick to that 5-game limit under the lights. Edgewood did not respond to our request for comment.
Cannabis oil, better known as CBD oil, is popping up everywhere, from food to bath bombs to even tea.
And now that ingredient that's found in marijuana is showing up in several new drinks downtown in Madison. Christina Laurie is checking them out for us this morning at the Great Dane. She is live with one of the pub's owners. And Christina, so many questions right now about these drinks.
Good morning, Lee and Danica. Yes, we're here with Ted Peterson here at the Great Dane downtown, and there are a lot of questions surrounding CBD. We were just chatting about this ourselves.
Sure.
There's a big learning curve that goes on. What are some of the benefits people see when they take CBD?
Well, you know, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been forced to learn a lot about CBD, cannabis, hemp, marijuana. CBD is actually a component of hemp, so it doesn't have the THC mind-altering effects of cannabis or of marijuana. But what CBD does is it's anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory. It helps relax you.
And these drinks that we're showing, you only add 7 milligrams. Can you talk about how much that is?
Sure. So 7 milligrams is basically just three sprays of a bottle of CBD oil. So it's a very, very small amount, but it's so concentrated that really, if you had 2 beers or 2 of our cocktails, that would be the normal dosage, the normal daily dosage of CBD oil.
Can someone taste it? Can you taste the CBD oil?
Actually, CBD oil is flavorless, but we do have flavors for our cocktails. We have orange, lime, lemon, cinnamon, coffee, and
I think I saw peppermint for seasonal.
Yes, for the hot chocolate.
And what are the different beverages that you're offering with CBD?
In addition to any of our beers and our Green Glory CBD APA, pretty much any non-alcoholic drink, and then we have our craft cocktails that we use for the have for the winter. All have a flavored CBD oil in it, and then you can get the non-flavored for any beer or any cocktail or soft drink.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're going to check back in with Ted coming up in the next half hour of News 3 this morning. We're going to talk a little bit more about the legality of CBD, since it is such a new substance that not many people really know a lot about yet.
A big learning curve. I think that was the best way to put it, Christina, and a lot to learn and find out. Very interesting. Christina Laurie reporting live from the downtown Great Dane. Thanks.
6:07 your time now. Our health expert, Dr. Mandira Mehra, is in this morning to talk about a really interesting new study that ties childbirth to breast cancer. Moms, you're going to want to hear about this. She's in next to break down the risks.
And Hattie's expecting us to get to nearly 40 degrees today. That's basically tropical weather for us. But after the fog you are probably seeing this morning, we're seeing it out at the Capitol. We'll probably see some freezing rain tonight. Hattie's talking about that system, when it'll move in when News 3 This Morning returns.
Good morning from the patio. Pretty quiet conditions this morning, but those light winds and a little bit of clearing have allowed some fog to develop across southern Wisconsin. Take a look at the dense fog advisory. That's in effect this morning until about 10 o'clock. It's for areas all around Madison to the north as well as to the west. Here's a look at current visibility readings. Visibility is right near zero in Mineral Point and the Dells, so some pretty thick fog there. Thick fog in Lone Rock and Viroqua as well. A little bit of fog to the north and east as well, with visibility less than 2 miles from Watertown all the way up to Fond du Lac. Now, keep in mind, temperatures are cold this morning. They are much colder than they were this time yesterday, so some of that fog may be freezing on the roads or sidewalks, and there may be some slippery spots. Temperature is 21 here in Madison and Platteville, 20 in the Dells, 21 in Janesville. Nothing showing up on the radar map around here, but a couple of areas of precipitation to note across the upper Midwest. There is some snow to our north and west across Minnesota. That is going to track almost straight east today, so it will likely stay north of the viewing area. It'll also begin to diminish a little bit as well. To our south, though, some rain is developing, and that system is going to lift northward. So our forecast does include the chance for some rain or even some freezing rain tonight. Now, the daytime hours will be dry. That rain is not expected to move across the Wisconsin-Illinois state line until after about 6 o'clock tonight. But then it does impact the southeastern corner of the state. Here in Madison, that's where we could see a little bit of freezing rain mix in at times overnight. This system moves pretty quickly, though, and is out of the area early Friday morning. The rest of the day Friday will be dry. Temperatures are quite mild to the south. Springfield, Missouri is at 49 degrees. Kansas City's at 43 this morning. Drops to 33 in Des Moines and 24 in Minneapolis. We're a little bit colder than that here even. Temps generally in the low 20s this morning. Take a look at your future track forecast model, and what you see is a little bit of clearing taking place towards the lunch hours. So we have a pretty good chance to see some sunshine for at least a couple of hours today. Clouds move back in ahead of that rain coming up from the south, and then we do see that chance for some mixy precipitation, especially south and east of Madison later on tonight. Things quiet down, though, through the day on Friday. Here's a look at your extended forecast. Temperatures actually are quite mild. 38 today, 37 on Friday, and 40 on Saturday. Generally pretty quiet conditions through the weekend into the start of next week. I don't see any major storms set to move into our region. Now let's get a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning with Josh Tim. Good morning, Josh.
Yeah, good morning. As Hattie mentioned, there is some heavy fog here in southern Wisconsin, making visibility low and the road slick in the areas. Just plan a few minutes extra for your commute. The Beltline is moving well so far, though, with no major delays showing up yet in either direction. Other roads here in Dane County not looking too bad, just some of the usual brake lights on northbound Verona Road near the Beltline. No problems at all downtown around the Capitol Square and UW campus. Volume not a factor at this point. And other routes heading into Madison, they're moving at the usual speeds right now with no major crashes or delays. Your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Hattie. 6:14 right now, and a new study suggests women who give birth are actually at an increased risk for breast cancer compared to those who don't have kids.
Now, research shows that risk can continue for more than 2 decades after giving birth. Dr. Mandira Mera joins us from SSM Health this morning to talk more about that new research. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to be here.
So this kind of flies in the face of everything we've been told in the past, right?
It's true. Every few months, I feel like I'm here saying, wow, if you have children, this is actually a protective factor against having breast cancer. And that's not totally untrue. So we really have to look at the fine print here, not just the headline. What we're really looking at is women that have just had children, really that 5 years after, and then up to about 23 years, you are at an increased risk of breast cancer. Somewhere around the age of 50 then, once again, having had children becomes a protective mechanism. And we don't understand all the nuances behind it. There's some philosophy, there's some science, genetics, hormones. But yes, the headline is true that having children could make you more susceptible to actually having breast cancer, at least in that initial phase. Now the question becomes why? What do we do with this information? Should we actually change how we childbear and the time course and our risk factors? Don't do anything yet. This is an interesting study. We need further study, but what it is interesting to say is that maybe we need better screening for that younger population that is having children, maybe initially in that 5-year period. Some of the reasons this could be happening is both hormonal, expanding breast tissue at a rapid rate. So anytime we have expanding tissue cells in the body, whether that's breast tissue or any tissue, you run the risk of increasing error. So that may be one reason that women are more susceptible after those bearing years or after they've had the children to actually having that breast cancer. Again, this is a theoretical, so don't go out there and panic and don't try to not have children, but it's something to take into consideration, especially if you have other risk factors like family history or things like that.
Speaking of family history, we wanted to talk to you too about genetic testing when it comes to breast cancer and whether or not it's adequate. I mean, thousands of women or patients in general, I suppose, have hereditary causes that lead to them having breast cancer. What are studies showing now that we should be testing for?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, and it's something that's constantly debated both in the scientific medical community, but as well as the insurance coverage financial community.
Sure.
Because some of this does come, of course, at a cost. Now, the important thing to remember here is that we hear a lot about BRCA1, BRCA2. So a lot of patients will say, wow, Dr. Mara, you know, I heard about BRCA1, BRCA2, should I be getting tested? So first of all, not everyone needs to get tested for everything. So we have to really look at the individual patient, your family history, your genetic risk factors. That being said, BRCA1, BRCA2 are one out of maybe 30, 40 commercially available genetic screens and tests available just for breast cancer. That's just sort of two very popular ones. That being said, we have to remember why we do these genetic tests. We do these because it can affect not only our treatment, but our cure rate. And so we're talking about a test being life-saving. Depending on the current guidelines from national cancer associations and different studies that come out, insurance companies then decide, should we cover this, should we not cover this? And that's what makes it readily available to us as consumers and patients. So we really need to talk to our individual physicians, say, here's what my risk factors are, here's my family history, what options do I have in terms of genetic testing, and then seeing what is covered by insurance and what's not.
And that's definitely the barrier.
Exactly.
There, yeah.
Two really interesting conversations surrounding breast cancer this week. All right, Dr. Mara, thanks so much.
Thanks, great to be here.
Good to see you. All right, so the state is making an investment to make sure trees along your properties and in parks are not getting killed off by emerald ash borers. We'll explain more coming up after the break.
Speaking of green, when's the last time we saw that here in Wisconsin? It's been a while. Lots of gray and brown this time of year, and even though Hattie does have a little bit of snow in the forecast, we're not expecting a white Christmas this year. A little bit of fog this morning, though. We'll check in with her next when News 3 This Morning returns.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Hattie McLean. If you're just waking up this morning, there is some dense fog across southern Wisconsin, especially in the Dells and the Mineral Point areas. That dense fog advisory is in effect until 10 o'clock this morning. Take a look at visibility. It's still near zero in the Dells, about 1.25 miles in Juneau, just 1/4 mile in Lone Rock, as well as Mineral Point. Here's a look at your temperature change. It definitely is colder than it was this time yesterday, about 10 to 15 degrees colder in most spots, with temperatures in the low 20s. There may be some slippery spots on area roads, especially through southwestern Wisconsin, with that fog this morning. Here's a look at your bus stop weather forecast. Temperatures will climb to highs in the upper 30s this afternoon, a little milder than it was yesterday. Have a wonderful day.
All right, Hattie, thanks so much. So there's a preparation for even milder temperatures as 10 communities across southern Wisconsin are receiving state funding to make sure urban areas stay green and free of destructive pests. Now, more than $500,000 will be split among 40 or so counties across the state, all going toward urban forestry efforts. The city of Monroe will receive $25,000 to preemptively remove ash trees or treat ones already affected by the emerald ash borer. Milton and Fenimore are getting between $22,000 and $25,000 for tree removal and replacement as well. The DNR says they want more communities to plant a variety of different trees to help fight the spread of that insect.
It is something we all have, but we probably don't know a lot about until it's time to use it, our health insurance plan. We are digging into how well companies could protect us, though, when we need them most. That's a real question for Bethany Kelly. Doctors diagnosed her with a pineal tumor in the center of her brain, one that's caused symptoms like memory loss, trouble saying the right words, or even remembering her own kids' names. The longer it's in there, the worse those symptoms might become. But she says her insurance company won't pay for an out-of-network surgeon to operate on her, even though no one in-network will either.
I feel like if you can change a situation, you can change the quality of life for somebody, and you're choosing not to. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Coming up tonight on News 3 at 10, we're telling you more about Bethany's call for action. And we're taking a closer look at what you need to know about your own health insurance, especially when it comes to coverage during a serious illness or a diagnosis. That's coming up tonight at 10. And this is a really good story with serious implications for all of us to learn something.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, you don't really think about it and you don't really study the implications until you absolutely need it. And so we appreciate you doing all the legwork for us and making sure that story is shared right there.
It'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right, there is a new plan to address safety at a West Side apartment that's seen hundreds of police calls since it opened a couple of months ago. We'll check in with what the city's doing there coming up.
And there's a new farm bill headed to the president's desk that offers some relief to Wisconsin's dairy farmers struggling with low milk prices. The news is back in the morning on News 3 this morning.
City leaders have a new plan for a West Side apartment that's seen hundreds of police calls in the past few months.
And we're celebrating the launch of a new kind of brew at the downtown Great Dane this morning. How this CBD-infused beer came to be.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 this morning. It is 6:28 now on this Thursday, December 13th. And we're seeing a lot of fog outside, which I think is pretty appropriate for this Friday Eve. I think we're all dragging a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn it over to Hattie now with a look at that fog, where it's popping up, and where these drivers should be looking out for it this morning.
Yeah, pretty hard to be dragging though when you're standing outside in 20-degree temperatures. That'll wake you up no problem this morning. It is colder outside, but we are dealing with some fog, as Leah and Danica mentioned. Take a live look at the dense fog advisories that are in effect for the area. They go until 10 o'clock, and looks like areas to the north and west of Madison are seeing the thickest fog this morning. Have seen a little bit of improvement in Mineral Point. They were sitting at zero visibility for about an hour and a half, but now it's up to a quarter of a mile, so that's a little bit better. Still zero visibility in the Dells, some fog as well in the Juneau and Watertown areas. Keep in mind, temperatures are cold. We're 21 here in Madison, and that's pretty similar all across southern Wisconsin, so there may be some freezing spots on the slippery spots on the roads, I should say. Temperature trend today, though, will take us through the 20s, back into the 30s, but we should top right around 38 a little bit later on this afternoon. So a little bit warmer than it was yesterday. Here's a look at your First Alert traffic maps this morning. So far, things have been pretty quiet, and it looks like that trend is continuing right now. Looking at drive times across the area, looks like you're not dealing with any problems heading into Madison right now. And that's your First Alert traffic.
All right, thank you so much, Hattie. We are learning more this morning about plans to increase security at a West Madison complex for people who are formerly homeless. Tree Lane Apartments opened back in June and saw more than 200 police calls in a 3-month span. A woman was also shot inside of her apartment there just last month. The State Journal reports city leaders are talking about adding security guards to that location. Chicago-based Heartland Housing that owns the complex has already made some adjustments to the internal alarm system and added signs to warn trespassers. Alder Paul Skidmore says future housing first initiatives in Madison will be directly impacted by what happens at Tree Lane.
New this morning, one person is dead and several others are recovering from injuries after a head-on crash in Jefferson County. Now, officials responded to reports of that collision in the town of Oakland just before 7 o'clock last night. An SUV and sedan were involved in that head-on crash on Highway 12 near Airport Road. The driver of the sedan was pronounced dead at the scene. The SUV driver and a passenger in that car were taken to UW Hospital with serious injuries. There's no update on their conditions so far this morning. Now, authorities are still working to notify the family of the person who died and have not released anyone's name at this time.
A Madison family is asking for help finding a woman who's been missing since Tuesday. There's no reason to believe 65-year-old Elaine Calabrese is hurt or that foul play was involved, but her family is still concerned for her welfare. Calabrese lives near South Westfield Road on the city's west side. That's next to James Madison Memorial High School. She's just over 5 feet tall, 115 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. You can see that picture of her right there. Anyone with information should call 911.
The Wisconsin Farm Bureau is praising lawmakers this morning for passing a massive $900 billion farm bill. That's now waiting on the president's signature, along with subsidies to help farmers deal with higher tariffs, lower commodity prices, and uncertain weather. The legislation gives Wisconsin's dairy farmers the option to buy a type of insurance that would help compensate for low milk prices in particular. Now, the Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative, based up in Green Bay, says that will help make the risk management program cheaper and allow farmers to enroll in multiple programs at the same time. We have much more on the impact of this bill over on our homepage at channel3000.com.
A lawyer made famous in a Netflix documentary about a Wisconsin murder is joining a new panel to fix Wisconsin's prison system. On the campaign trail, Tony Evers had told supporters he wants to cut the state's prison population in half. To do that, WPR reports he's bringing together a panel of former state Supreme Court justices and former corrections secretaries. Dean Strang, one of Stephen Avery's lawyers from the Netflix series Making a Murderer, is also on that team. Strang told WPR he wants rules for police interrogation practices to be part of that conversation.
There's a new push here in the state to help people being released from prison stay away from heroin and prescription painkillers. The State Department of Health Services awarded more than $1 million in grants to 16 different counties, including Dane, Rock, and Columbia. That money will fund injectable medication for inmates getting out of prison that will help them cope with opioid addiction. Those individuals will also participate in long-term treatment plans that do include counseling and follow-up injections.
All right, 6:33 your time now. The Great Dane is officially launching what they say will be the state's first CBD-infused cocktails tonight.
So we wanted to know more about the legality of putting CBD in a pale ale or an old-fashioned, so we sent Christina Laurie to the Great Dane downtown, where you will be able to try them for yourself later today. Christina, good morning.
Good morning, ladies. So in the past, breweries here in Wisconsin have fallen into a bit of legal problem when they tried to bottle up the CBD infused drinks and sell them themselves. But that is not the case here at the Great Dane. We're joined this morning by Ted Peterson. He's one of the co-founders of the Great Dane. So how did you know that you are allowed to actually sell it to the public?
Well, we did do a lot of research into what folks on the East Coast and West Coast have been doing with CBD oil. And we noticed that those that canned or bottled were getting into trouble with local regulations. And so, but those that were just adding it to their brew and selling it over the bar were not. And so that was our first clue that it would be okay to do it that way. And then the more research we did find out that that was an acceptable usage for the CBD oil in beers and cocktails.
So there are 7 milligrams added to this.
Correct.
Will people be able to taste that? What kind of effects will it have on them?
Taste-wise, no. It's flavorless, in the beers especially. The effects should be anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory, pain relief, very calming nature of it. There are multiple positive benefits from CBD, and all without the THC mind-altering aspects of it.
And right now it costs $2 to add it to any drink. You can add it to a non-alcoholic beverage as well.
Absolutely.
But you guys are also experimenting about adding it to food. How soon could that be available?
Yeah, you know, our chef, Matt Pace, as soon as we started talking about putting it in beer, thought it'd be really cool to start looking into different menu items. We did also research on that and found that there are some restaurants on the West Coast that do have CBD infused menu items, and so that should be coming down in the near future.
Thank you so much for chatting with us this morning. And if anyone at home would like to come out to the Great Dane, it might be a little too early to be drinking at 6:30 in the morning, but you can try these brews for yourself starting at 4:30 tonight. That launch party runs from 4:30 until 6. We have all the information up on our website, channel3000.com. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you, ladies.
Certainly an interesting option at Great Dane.
Fascinating, and if nothing else, for the novelty, right?
Exactly. All right, Christina Laurie reporting live for us. Thank you, Christina.
6:35 right now. A Madison alder says an Eastside nightclub should not be allowed to serve alcohol. We'll have the latest in the morning sprint.
And with the kind of weather we're seeing this week, let's take a second to talk about summer and baseball and the Brewers. They're announcing the free fan giveaways for the upcoming season when News 3 This Morning returns. Welcome back. So the troublesome weekend twosome that we have here on the morning show, they're always bringing us some holiday cheer, but they're really bringing it in heavy this morning. Check out their holiday decorations.
Yeah, can you come over, Chris and Josh, and go ahead and decorate my place, because it doesn't look anywhere as good as that.
Forget that. Come and decorate News 3.
That too.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing, you two. What does your morning look like? Take a picture, post it on our Facebook page and on Twitter, and use the hashtag MyNews3Mornings so Danica and I can find and share our favorites right here on the program.
Dr. Christine Blasey Ford is trending again on Twitter this morning after some of her statements against Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh were back in the spotlight last night. Her testimony was part of a video shown at the Sports Illustrated's Sportsperson of the Year Awards. The Inspiration of the Year Award went to former gymnast Rachel Denhollander, the first woman to publicly accuse USA Gymnastics coach and doctor Larry Nassar of sexual assault. Now, more than 300 women then followed her lead. During the presentation, Dr. Ford praised Denhollander's courage.
Also topping the Twitter sphere this morning, Serena Williams is making history as the first woman with cornrows on Teen Vogue's magazine cover. This issue talks about power, activism, and black girl magic, and features a conversation with Williams and 11-year-old Naomi Wadler, who gave an eloquent speech about gun violence at a rally in Washington earlier this year. This also marks editor-in-chief Lindsay Wagner's debut issue. At 28 years old, she just became the youngest black editor-in-chief at a major publication. Pretty cool.
That is really cool. So believe it or not, we are 15 weeks away from Brewers opening day and just 75 days from spring training here.
All right, exactly what we need to hear with this cold weather. And if you're a fan of all of the Brewers freebies at Miller Park, this next story is for you. Yesterday, the Brewers tweeted out their 2019 fan giveaway schedule. On the list are t-shirts, can holders, that famed trucker hat everybody loves. You can also add Jeremy Jeffress, Prince Fielder, Josh Hader, and NL MVP Christian Yelich to your bobblehead collection. My personal favorite from the list, a fanny pack.
Nice. They always have great giveaways.
You know, I'm a bigger fan of the food.
I love the jerseys too. It's good stuff.
Oh, yeah, that is good stuff. Fanny pack to put my food in, though, let me tell you.
A fanny pack.
That's where I'm at.
Man, I don't want to reach into that fanny pack after you forget something in there. That's going to be so gross.
Chili cheese fries after a couple days? No? No?
Hard pass.
Maybe we'll keep them in the helmet.
Yeah. Or just eat them at once. Don't save any for later.
All right, fair point. Okay, back to winter now. This isn't exactly the kind of precipitation we're hoping for so close to the holidays. But Hattie says an umbrella might come in handy for the rain, maybe freezing on your Thursday night. We're one day closer to the sunny weekend, though, so hang in there. Your First Alert forecast is next.
First, though, if you have a kiddo turning 3 soon, let us know so we can show their picture on TV. News 3 this morning. We'll be back after this.
Good morning from the News 3 First Alert Weather Center. The big weather story this morning is the fog, and it has prompted a dense fog advisory for areas north of Dane County as well as to the west. So keep that in mind as you travel this morning. The dense fog advisories are in effect until 10 o'clock this morning. We have seen some good improvement, though, in Mineral Point. Visibility back up to 2 miles there. Half-mile visibility in Lone Rock. Still some pretty thick fog, though, right around the Dells area, where visibility is still near zero. Now, temperatures early today are well below the freezing point. In fact, it's down to 17 in the Dells. So keep that in mind as you're traveling across the area. If you run into some foggy spots, the roads may become slippery in a hurry, so be aware of that. Temperature is right around 20 here in Madison, 21 in Watertown, and 21 in Janesville. Elsewhere across the upper Midwest, you'll see some green shaded colors, which indicates pretty mild temperatures south of Kansas City and St. Louis this morning. It's 38 in St. Louis, but near 50 in Springfield this morning, so quite mild temperatures there. There is some moisture and warmth streaming up from the south. Those showers are still quite a ways away from us this morning. Also a little bit of snow off to our north and west. This snow is going to track to the east today, so it's not in our forecast, but the rain is going to lift northward over the coming hours, and we do have a little bit of rain in our forecast tonight. No airport delays around here this morning, but there is some fog as you head back towards Minneapolis as well, so that may slow things down a little bit. Otherwise, across the country, travel looking pretty good right now. It's down to the south, Dallas, New Orleans, that may experience some delays later on today with showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. There is a risk for severe weather along the southern tier of the United States as a front moves through that region. Here across the upper Midwest, though, things are relatively quiet. We have dry conditions with cloudy skies in Omaha. Chicago's looking at some rain later on today, and we'll see some of that rain as well. Take a look at your future track forecast model. By about 7 o'clock, that rain just getting to the Wisconsin-Illinois state line. As it continues to lift northward into the southeastern corner of the state, some rain, maybe even a little bit of freezing rain on the back edge of that precipitation is possible tonight. So basically from Madison and points to the south and east. All the precipitation clears the area, though, pretty quickly on Friday. High pressure building in is going to leave us some sunshine as we head into the upcoming weekend. Here's a live look outside. We have, again, some clearing taking place here in Madison. It's cold, though, 20 degrees this morning, no winds to speak of. Your pinpoint city forecast highs today, we're looking at a high of 38 in Watertown as well as Fort Atkinson today. Some clearing is possible, especially through the middle of the day. Clouds roll in later on today, though, ahead of that rain. 37 in Prairie du Chien for the high, 37 as well in Muscoda and Fenimore, and to the north, Mauston tops at 33, as does Montello. Here in Madison, we're looking at high temperatures right around 38 degrees today. Not a bad day at all. Some rain, possibly mixed with a little bit of freezing rain tonight into early Friday. That comes to an end pretty quickly, though. And it looks like dry conditions for the weekend right into the first part of next week. No major storms headed in this direction.
Aww.
Take a look at Maggie May in Verona.
Cutie.
Definitely focusing on something. Not a bad day for a walk, though. 38 degrees.
Oh, Maggie, if your parents need a babysitter,
right,
give us a call.
Very cute this morning.
We need a newsroom pup. Come on.
Yes, emotional support pup. Thank you, Hattie.
Morning Sprint's coming up next right here on News 3 This Morning. 6:51 time now for the morning sprint. Fog in the morning, freezing rain tonight. That's the story from Hattie's forecast.
And Christina Laurie is live for the release of some new CBD-infused drinks in downtown Madison. But we start on Madison's west side, where a team of city leaders is working on plans to improve safety at an apartment complex for homeless families. Tree Lane Apartments has had a high number of police calls since opening in June, and a woman was shot inside there just last month. The State Journal reports city leaders are talking about adding security guards. They won't give formal recommendations, though, for a couple more weeks.
An Eastside alder says a nightclub should not be allowed to sell alcohol anymore. David Aarons told the State Journal that Visions nightclub is a, quote, blight on the neighborhood and a hub of prostitution, drug selling, and violence. Police records show there have been more than 50 911 calls responding to Visions so far this year for everything from battery to theft, property damage, and fights. Most recently, 4 people were shot there over the weekend.
One person is dead and several others are injured after a head-on crash in Jefferson County last night. It happened in the town of Oakland on Highway 12 near Airport Road just before 7. The driver of one of those vehicles died at the scene. The other driver and passenger are in the hospital this morning with serious injuries.
A Madison family needs your help tracking down this woman, 65-year-old Elaine Calabrese. Elaine was reported missing on Tuesday. She lives near Memorial High School on the city's west side. She's just over 5 feet tall, 115 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. The family doesn't think anything criminal happened here, but they are worried about her well-being.
Later today, the State Crime Lab here in Madison will continue processing more than 100 pieces of evidence that could be connected to a missing 13-year-old from Barron. It's been almost 2 months now since Jamie Kloss disappeared. Authorities think she was abducted from her home after her parents were murdered. The Barron County Sheriff says evidence testing should be finished within the next few days.
A widow is suing Rock County for $250,000, saying a public transit service is responsible for her late husband's death. The Janesville Gazette reports Annette Miller claims that back in February, 82-year-old Paul Miller died when he fell out of his wheelchair in a Rock County transit van. The suit alleges the driver of that van didn't secure the wheelchair properly and then accelerated quickly, causing it to tip over.
And the view this morning is pretty nice on the sky cam shots. Here's what it looks like in Platteville. A little bit of fogginess close to the ground, but clear skies overhead. Dense fog advisory is in effect until 10 o'clock this morning for the counties shaded in gray. Temperatures, though, should climb well into the 30s today, topping at 38 degrees this afternoon.
Thank you, Hattie. The AP is reporting this morning an Iranian hacking group has spent the past month trying to break into the personal emails of more than a dozen U.S. Treasury officials. The group, nicknamed Charming Kitten, is also targeting defenders of the nuclear deal between Washington and Tehran and Arab atomic scientists.
New this morning, the head of the UN agency tasked with containing HIV and AIDS says he's quitting early following a report of his defective leadership. Last week, an independent panel concluded the agency was in crisis over sexual harassment, bullying, and abuse of power. Executive Director Michael Sibdid announced that this morning, that he is leaving in June instead of when his contract is up in 2020.
The 3 people trapped inside a West Virginia mine are now out safe this morning. Erica Treadway, Cody Beverly, and Kayla Williams walked into the mine on Saturday morning. Just yesterday, crews found them about 1,000 feet from its entrance. All 3 were taken to the hospital and are doing okay this morning. A family member said they might have been scavenging copper wires from the mine.
Our medical expert, Dr. Mandira Mera, says you should not change your family plans after a new study shows women who have children are at an increased risk of breast cancer. That risk can continue for a couple decades following childbirth. Then after that, being a mom is shown to protect against breast cancer. Experts, including Dr. Mera, say the breast cancer connection to childbirth is small and shouldn't cause any concern.
Stores across the country are pulling Kotex Sleek Regular Absorbency U tampons from its shelves. Those products are made by Kimberly-Clark that has a plant in the Fox Valley area here in Wisconsin. Some women say part of the product unraveled when they removed it and they needed medical help as a result. You can check the Kotex website to see if the box you bought falls under that recall.
I'm Christina Laurie, live at the Great Danes downtown location, where starting tonight you can drink some new brews with CBD in them. Earlier this hour, we talked with the pub's owner, Ted Peterson. He's been using CBD oil himself to help relieve inflammation and joint pain. CBD is one of the molecules found in marijuana, but unlike the other molecule, THC, it cannot get you high. At the Great Dane, customers will have the option of adding CBD to any of the Great Dane's winter cocktails. Those drinks will cost $2 more than the regular versions. The Brews launch party starts at 4:30 tonight here on
Christina, thank you. Stargazers, a heads up that the Geminid meteor shower starts tonight. You can see upwards of 120 meteors an hour, if it's clear enough outside, that is. This is happening because Earth is passing through some debris left behind by an asteroid. The best time for viewing is going to be right around 2 a.m. Friday morning.
6:56 now. Let's turn it over to Josh Tim with a look at your first alert traffic. Hey, Josh.
Yeah, we're watching a crash in Columbia County, a county highway DM in Leeds that has Highway 51 closed in both directions. Things are backing up fast in that area. Just make sure you take a different route this morning. There are a few brake lights on the westbound Beltline near the Stoughton Road exit. That's going to add a minute or two. Inbound John Nolan, you're tapping the brakes at Rimrock and Olin Avenue heading into the downtown Madison area. Other main routes leading into the city, they're moving along at the usual speeds with no major crashes or delays. Your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thanks, Josh.
And the view outside is actually pretty nice. Take a look at the look from our Edgewater sky cam this morning, kind of a pink hue to the sky. We're looking at temperatures starting in the low 20s this morning, but climbing to highs in the upper 30s this afternoon. A little bit of sunshine in between as well.
That's what we like to hear. Certainly be careful on your way home this afternoon and evening. We'll see you back tomorrow morning.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.